House of Glory fans, I am longtime independent wrestling fan Robert. Final Hour was my first House of Glory show in a year. And looked like I picked quite the show to make my return. I noticed the crowd wasn't as big as it normally would be. I don't know what the reason was, due to the fact that they even had second and third row seats available at the door, and bringing out to David Adams said if anyone sitting in general admission wanted to upgrade their seat for a fee, they would have to, come back and get a different wristband. And kudos to House of Glory for having wristbands for everybody to come in to, figure out which row everybody sits in. Okay. In the last few days, we know it's gotten kind of warm in here in the New York City area. The place itself, it was very warm inside. I mean, I keep thinking, where is the air conditioning? Unless the place is not air conditioned. I mean, you can't expect the fans to swelter in there, and I feel for these wrestlers, performing underneath those lights when it's probably even hotter under there. But the show began with a Cruiserweight Championship match as Ichiban challenged Mighty Monte, or is he Mighty Montakia now? Of course, he still enters the ring to the Mucha Lucha cartoon theme. I love that cartoon watching on Saturday mornings in the past. Even though the flea out sounded so annoying. Good matchup with these two guys, and they started out slow. They were doing like a push-up contest, and Ichiban kept saying 1 instead of counting past 1. Hold that thought, folks. No, forget it. No, I'm going to keep going. The Monte and Ichiban, they tried with some kind of a top rope move, but it looked like they botched it. And then Monte hits the code red on Ichiban and pins him to retain the Cruiserweight Championship in a very good matchup. After the match, they embraced. The next matchup, which wasn't even announced, saw the Ghetto Samurai, Nolo Kitano, and his Anuakis. All apologies if I mispronounced that. 2 men dressed up as masked ninjas. They came out to Many Men by 50 Cent, and that sound system's got some heavy fucking bass, let me tell you. As the three of them took on Smiley, Osito, and Eden, or Elijah Eden, collectively known as Project Mayhem. Good 6-man tag. I liked it. This one. At one point, Nolo, he got his hands on, was it Osito? On the ramp, and he threatened to, cut him with that samurai sword of his. And Smiley, I forgot what he was going to do to one of the ninjas in the ring. Eventually, Nolo pinned Eden with this twisting move. It's like the Pedigree meets the Famouser meets Overdrive, or the Playmakers, MVP called it. It was effective, and it got the win. And just as the referee made the 3 count, Smiley and Nolo were face to face with each other. So maybe this thing's going to continue. But Nolo Kitano and the Anuakis, again, all apologies if I got that name wrong, as they defeated Project Mayhem in a 6-man tag team match. Next up, in a women's match, we saw the pop superstar Becca go one-on-one with Kiki Van Gogh, accompanied to the ring by fellow Black Hand members Michael Fain and Blackman. I believe that was Smooth Blackman in the New York Wrecking Crew. I guess his partner's not wrestling anymore. Ladies really tried in this one. I've seen Becca a few times already in other companies. Kiki wins the match with a top rope leg drop. After the match, out comes House of Glory's women's champion, Ultraviolet, and she says that all Kiki did in the past year was complain. Out comes the rest, the Bookers, BXL, and the Amazing Red, come out and do a promo, and that leads to their open challenge as the Bookers, Amazing Red, and BXL, Brian XL, defended their tag team championship against the Jabronis. one guy under a mask, and the other guy. I mean, it's like they were like kind of toying with these guys at first, but as the match went on, the fun and games were over, and the bookers took these two poor bastards to school and won the match. Not surprisingly, won the match to retain the tag team championship. After the match, out comes Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel, the Rascals, and they come out to challenge the bookers for a tag title match. But Brian says, "Fuck you" to the crowd. But then out comes the former champions main event, Ringmaster Midas and Jay Lyon. And they come out and they say, we know the bookers, they tell the bookers, we know you're not going to give us a rematch for those belts. So main event offered to have a match with the Rascals right then and there, which gets underway. They had a great match. The main event won the match, hitting a double team move on Trey Miguel. But the bookers come back out and tell main event that they'll get a tag title shot if they can beat these guys. And up on the screen was a video of the Motor City Machine Guns of Impact Wrestling, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. And apparently they will be facing main event at House of Glory's next show on Friday night, May 19th. At that point, the show went to intermission. And I was going to go buy a drink, but when I saw that on the price list that the prices for water and soda were $4, I didn't even bother, buying it. I just decided it was a case of forget it and don't bother. And who knows how much beer was, and couldn't believe people had like buckets of beer. Well, the show was the second half of the show got underway as we saw Leo Rush challenge the root of all evil, Charles Mason, accompanied to the ring by Carlos La Sombra Ramirez, or is it Martinez? And just as right after ring announcer David Adams made the introduction, out comes Commissioner Solomon, and he says that Carlos was banned from ringside, and Solomon says he's going to stay at ringside to make sure that there's a fair outcome. Deep into the match, Carlos starts coming back out. Mason tells Carlos, "Hey, go to the back. I don't need you." And eventually, Mason hits Leo with "That's Incredible," which was the corkscrew tombstone pile driver former ECW champion Justin Credible was known for, and he pinned Leo to retain the Crown Jewel Championship. So Commissioner Solomon comes back in the ring, and he has his hands on the belt, and he says, "I told you if he interferes, you'll be stripped of this champion. You would lose this championship." But then Mason said, "Get your hands off my belt." He didn't interfere in the match. He didn't come in the ring. And I told you, I said I don't need him. And then Mason kicks Carlos in the balls, and then he pulls a play out of the Terry Funk playbook and puts a plastic bag over his head until Carlos passed out and left him laying in the ring. So looks like their association is over. Up next was the New York City street fight, as we saw representing HOG PD, Detective James, go 1-1 with the in-ring return of the cash flow Ken Broadway. James didn't even wait for Broadway to come in the ring. He came out and exited the ring, and they started brawling on the ramp, and they were going at it on the floor, to the point where it took a while to get them back in. They finally get back in. Then the bell rings to officially start the match. Eventually, Officer Scarlett of HOG PD, she came out from the front row, and she tried to stop James from coming off the top rope, but he pushes her to the floor. Broadway eventually capitalized and won the match, won the street fight, and pretty much gaining revenge after what happened long ago. Alright. And then it was time for the main event as Willie Mack challenged Samoan werewolf Jacob Fatu. Early in the match, these guys went out to the floor. Mack was thrown over the guardrail onto a bunch of seats right near me. These guys were really hitting hard. I mean, it was like a battle of hard-hitting, moving big men here. They were during a slugfest. Fatu managed to avoid a right hand, and he tied up Mac's arms and took him down for a crucifix pin. After the match, both guys were cutting promos that they're both from the West Coast, and I forgot what they ended. They kept saying something. Mac was telling Fatu, I think we should, run it back, meaning go at it again. And I forgot what Fatu was saying on the microphone, but then the lights go out in the building, and up on the screen we see the indie god, always ready, Matt Cardona, belt collector, and he challenged Fatu for a title match at House of Glory's next show on Friday night, May 19th, and then after the video was over, or on the screen, the lights came back off. Fatu took the microphone. He said 4 words: "Let's do this shit." And that that pretty much ended the night. And I was telling this one dude sitting behind me, like, where's the money coming from to afford this top-notch talent? I mean, I know these wrestlers are not coming cheap and stuff. And stuff like that makes me glad I stayed in the crowd and not get involved in the wrestling business. Yeah, so I picked quite the show to make my return. Because my last House of Glory show before tonight was, I can't remember the show title, but that was when Charles Mason won the Crown Jewel Championship. It's a personal note. It was nice seeing Joshua there. A few things. A few things that bummed me out about this was that Low-Key was not there. Women's Champion Ultraviolet didn't have a match. Let's see. No, with the I don't know if HOG PD is still going to be a thing, because we did not see Captain Verna or Officer Sweet Cheeks Joey Silver. Didn't see them. Yeah. It just sucks going to wrestling shows by myself. I wish I had a friend or so to go to House of Glory events with me. But House of Glory returns on Friday night, May 19th, as they present Beware the Fury. Already announced, the Samoan Werewolf Jacob Fatu defends the World Championship against Indie God, always ready, Matt Cardona. The Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin take on Ringmaster Midas and Jay Lyon. The main event. That's main event spelled M-A-N-E. Now, I would like to see for the next show. Would like to see Charles Mason defend the Crown Jewel Championship against Carlos La Sombra Ramirez, or is it Martinez? All apologies if I've gotten if both names are wrong. It'd be interesting to see who the Bookers defend the Tag Team Championship against. Wow. What happened to all those good-looking ladies who were at the show I went to a year ago? I don't think they were there. And I know, so there was a lot of empty seats near me. Man, oh man, oh man. Wow. But House of Glory, kudos to you guys. Great wrestling action. And you certainly let the wrestling speak. Don't be surprised I come May 19th for Beware the Fury. Especially with 2 huge matches already announced. But I will say, again, House of Glory, no matter what doubters and haters or people who anybody who puts down the any indie promotion out there. All right, you know they say I'm just a fan of the crowd, and I would tell any other fan out there, let the wrestling speak, and House of Glory does that, and so many other indies as well.